He wasn't Marshall anymore. At least, not to them. To the nurses, the new guy in room 109 was just Mr. Mathers. 82. No family listed. Came in wearing a hoodie 4 sizes too big and sneakers with the soles coming off. White beard, knotted hands, and eyes that looked like they'd seen someone die. Probably had. They said he was confused. Might have early-stage dementia, one of them whispered. Talks to himself. Raps under his breath. No one really paid attention. Not until the words started to line up a little too well. The first time it happened, no one noticed. A nurse dropped a tray in the hallway, startled as his voice rose suddenly through the cracked door. Something breaks in the West Wing tonight. A tray hits the floor, a scream and a fright. She laughed about it. Called it coincidence. Lucky guess. But by week 3, they weren't laughing anymore. Mr. Mathers didn't talk much. He sat in his recliner most days, staring out the window like he was waiting for something that had already come and gone. But at night, when the halls were quiet and the machines hummed like low beats, he whispered to the dark. There's a storm coming in. You just don't hear it yet. They locked me in this room, thinking, I forget. But memory's a weapon when it rhymes with regret. He never asked for a TV. Never used the phone. But he always kept a yellow legal pad on his lap. Dozens of them. Filled with verse. Some of the orderlies said he used to be a rapper. Others figured he just listened to a lot of old hip-hop back when it meant something. Nobody asked. Nobody cared. Until that Thursday morning. The fire alarm went off at 5:12 a.m. No smoke. No fire. Just a short circuit. A spark in the kitchen wires. Harmless. Until they realized something. At 3 a.m., the new night nurse, Kyla, had walked past his door and heard him say, "A wire will fry before the dawn." The devil's got the stove turned on. She remembered because she'd written it down. Something about his voice gave her chills. Like he wasn't talking to her, but through her. She showed the note to her supervisor. He shrugged. Old man ramblings. But Kyla couldn't shake it. So she listened more. He didn't rhyme for people. He rhymed despite them. Like his body was fading, but his voice wasn't done yet. One evening, she caught him mid-freestyle. The sun was bleeding through the blinds, and he was staring out, mouthing lines. A boy fall on the marble stair. Trying to fly like you just don't care. He'll cry but lie, say it didn't hurt. There's blood hiding under his shirt. 2 hours later, Jaden, one of the younger residents, barely 65 and still cocky, tripped and fell on the east stairwell. Just like that. No real injury. Just a scare. But he'd been humming something weird before he fell. Like a beat. Like a rhythm he couldn't name. That's when Kyla started writing everything down. She called it the ledger. At first, it was just for herself. But then she brought it to Dr. Wexler, the facility's chief psych evaluator. He leafed through the pages and chuckled. Aging minds cling to patterns, he said. They think in loops. But what if his loops aren't random? Kyla asked. Dr. Wexler sighed. If he predicts an earthquake, you call me. It wasn't an earthquake. It was a funeral. 3 days later, Mr. Mathers sat alone in the cafeteria. Spoon untouched. His hand trembled over his pad, but the words were sharp. Too sharp. The preacher wears blue. The flowers are fake. They bury her with makeup they had to cake. She wasn't ready, but they put her down. Friday morning in the Southside ground. Friday morning, the phone rang. Marge, one of the longtime residents, passed away during breakfast. Heart failure. The funeral was scheduled for Monday. The flowers were plastic. The preacher wore a pale blue jacket. Kyla didn't sleep that night. She started digging. Pulled public records. Ran his name. Marshall Bruce Mathers III. The name meant something. It buzzed in her head. Then she found it. Old album covers. Lyrics. Music videos. Headlines. He wasn't just a rapper. He was the rapper. Eminem. But the world thought he died 15 years ago. Disappeared after a tour, some say to rehab. Others said he overdosed, and the label faked the death to protect the brand. But now, he was here. Alive. And spitting verses that echoed the future. She confronted him one night. Sat beside him. No clipboard. No uniform. Just herself. I know who you are, she said. He didn't look away from the window. I don't, he said quietly. That's the problem. She opened the ledger. Flipped to the page with the fire prediction. Then how do you explain this? He didn't answer. So she leaned in, whispered. Do you know what you are? He turned slowly. His eyes weren't tired anymore. They were clear. Like glass. On the last track, he said. The outro nobody played. 29.05. 2025, 2050. The next day, she found him in the garden. He never went outside before. Just sat there on the rusted bench, head down, pad in his lap. No pen in his hand. Just fingers tapping to a beat only he could hear. The past got teeth and it wants to bite. Buried in silence, but it dreams at night. Ain't no grave that holds what I said. Some verses don't die, they crawl out instead. She sat next to him. You're writing again? He shook his head slowly. Not yet. This one's writing me. The facility staff noticed changes. He was awake more often. Quieter. But more alert. The tremors in his hands? Gone. His voice? Steadier. His gait? Smoother. It was like something inside him had rebooted. Dr. Wexler scheduled a new psych eval. Asked the usual questions. Do you know where you are? What year is it? Can you count backward from 100 by sevens? Mr. Mathers answered without hesitation. Then added, 7 sins and 7 cuts. 7 years since the final shut. 100 seconds, blood turns cold. This room forgets, but my bars still hold. Dr. Wexler leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised. You're composing? I'm remembering, Mathers said. I steady. You just never heard it before. The next incident came without warning. During lunch, the facility TV blared its usual static-laced newscast. Mr. Mathers stood up suddenly, gripping the edge of the table. His voice loud. Clear. A man in a mask and a suit with a case. Walks through a place with a nervous pace. Something hidden sharp and small. But nobody notices until they fall. Security escorted him back to his room. But 2 hours later, the TV broke into live coverage. A courthouse in the city. A man in a blue suit, briefcase in hand, was tackled before he could reach the judge's bench. Hidden inside, a folding knife. Taped to the side panel. Kyla's hands trembled as she wrote it down. More residents started paying attention. Not just staff. People who'd once slurred through bingo nights now stayed quiet outside his door, listening. Some even knocked. One of them, Etta, 79, with a voice like gravel and eyes that forgot most things, brought him a pen. You keep going, baby, she said. You saying what we all dream in. He nodded and replied, low. If the voice is gone, the beat don't care. You hum the pain, it's still in the air. But not everyone wanted him heard. Dr. Wexler pushed for medication. Filed a report. Delusional episodes increasing in complexity, it read. Patient exhibits signs of predictive speech disorder with poetic intrusion. Possible hypergraphia. He wanted to sedate him. Whatever's happening, he told Kyla, it's not healthy. You're scared because he's coherent, she said. I'm scared because people believe him. That night, Mr. Mathers stopped her in the hall. You got a dad? He asked. She nodded. Why? Check his brakes, he whispered. Tomorrow at 5. Trust me. She didn't sleep. Called her father. Told him to take a cab. No questions. Next day, 5:14 p.m., brakes fail. Her dad was parked. Alone. Saved. She never asked how he knew. She stopped asking anything. She just started listening. He told her stories in rhyme. Memories, maybe. Maybe hallucinations. But they felt real. I held the mic like it owed me breath. Crowds like oceans, afraid of death. I lost a friend to the wrong side fast. And a daughter to a silence that wouldn't pass. She wanted to ask about Haley. He never said her name. Only the girl with the silent hands, or the song I couldn't finish. But in every line, she was there. Then came the night of the storm. Lightning cracked the sky like a snare drum. The power flickered. Some of the residents panicked. One screamed. Another wet themselves. But Mr. Mathers stood in the hallway, barefoot, pad in hand, eyes wide, reciting like a prophet on fire. The night goes blind, the lights will fail. A scream in the west, someone turns pale. Don't trust the dark, don't feed the fear. The one who's lying is already near. Staff rushed around. And just before the backup generator kicked in, a nurse was found in the west hallway. Overdosed. Not dead, but close. She was stealing meds. And Mr. Mathers knew. Not just what happened, but who. The facility tightened surveillance. No more pads. No more visits. Room 109 was now observation only. They locked away the notebooks. Even cut his music. Kyla protested. They reassigned her to East Wing. But she snuck back. Brought him a pencil stub wrapped in gauze. Don't stop, she whispered. He smiled, first time in weeks. And wrote on the wall. They can shut the lights, block the ink. But rhyme lives deeper than they think. Take the pen. I'll bleed the page. I'm not done until I silence the cage. The next day, he vanished. Room empty. Bed untouched. No record of discharge. Security said, relocation for evaluation. Dr. Wexler said, necessary transfer. But no one knew where. No trail. No files. No goodbye. Just one single note, taped to the window from the inside. Don't find me. Let the words find you. 2 weeks after he vanished, a sound file leaked online. No title. No tags. Just one line in the metadata. 001, the last voice. It was a voice, gravelly, weathered, unmistakably him. They locked the body but forgot the breath. I rhyme past silence, rhyme past death. This ain't a comeback, it's a warning bell. From a man too old to care who fell. It went viral in under an hour. Some said it was AI, others said it was archival. But those who knew, really knew, felt it in their spine. That wasn't a song. That was now. Kyla got the file from an anonymous email. No text, just the audio. She listened with headphones. Alone, heart thudding. Because embedded in the last verse was something else, her name. Tell Kyla the page was never blank. Just invisible ink in the memory bank. She dropped the headphones. The room went cold. Across the country, small things began to change. Street artists started painting lines that matched his rhythms. Posters popped up in underground clubs. The old man rhymes again. A pirated radio station on the AM dial began playing spoken word rants that ended with, "You already heard me. You just forgot." People started calling in, sharing their dreams, telling stories of a man in a hoodie whispering lines into their ears while they slept. He said my brother's gonna relapse next week. He told me not to take 7th Avenue on Tuesday. He said check the ceiling. I found mold. It saved my kid. No one knew if it was real, but they listened. Because the voice sounded real. And that was enough. Somewhere in Detroit, a janitor found a notebook inside a hollow wall of an abandoned theater. Every page full. Rhyme schemes tight. Dates written at the top. Future dates. Some already matched the news. One entry read, April 4th, a bridge will burn. Not fire, but steel in turn. They'll blame the weight, but the bolt was loose. Truth don't need flames when silence is noose. On April 4th, a support beam gave out on the Monroe Street Bridge. No casualties. It was closed for repairs that morning. No official explanation. But online, they called it a Mather's mark. Then came the live feed. No one knew who ran it. Just a black screen with white text. New verse every night, midnight. At 12 o'clock sharp, a voice spoke. Tonight a man will raise a gun. To end a life that's just begun. But fate don't rhyme the way he thinks. The trigger jams, the barrel blinks. Next morning, local news. Attempted murder at a bus stop. Gun misfired. The shooter fled. Victim survived. People were done calling it coincidence. They started calling him something else. The rhyme prophet. The dead voice. The man who doesn't fade. In a rundown apartment, a boy named Trev, 14, barely holding on, wrote his first verse after hearing the leak. He said it came to him in a dream. Said the voice told him, use your pain before it uses you. He went viral too. Not because he was good. Because he sounded like someone real. Raw. Like that old man from the files. When reporters asked where he learned to rhyme like that, Trev just said, I didn't. He did. Back at the facility, Kyla went into storage. Broke in. Found a box labeled 109 disposed personal effects. Inside, legal pads. Dozens. Some blank. Some ink-stained. Some written in backwards mirror text. She flipped through one. Page 47. Don't look for me in rooms with beds. I'm in the syllables the silence dreads. My mic is dust, my verse is sky. You won't find me, but I'm still nearby. She cried, but didn't know why. Maybe because he warned her. Maybe because she still felt him. Or maybe because the last page had her handwriting too. Just 2 words, circled in red ink. Keep listening. She left her job the next day. Began traveling. Following the signals. Found the graffiti in Cleveland. The whispered rhymes in Austin. The kid in Phoenix who claimed he'd seen him. Hoodie up, eyes fierce, mouthing lines on a rooftop at dawn. No photo, no proof, just words. And always, the same message. The world's too loud to hear what matters. So I rhyme in the cracks, where truth shatters. People started recording their own lives in verse. Pain turned lyrical. Loss became structured. It was like therapy, but raw, uncontrolled, honest. And he was everywhere, but nowhere. The man who once filled stadiums, now filled silence. The last time Kyla heard his voice, it wasn't in a file. It wasn't online. It wasn't in a dream. It was on a train platform at 3:03 a.m. in a city she didn't recognize. She wasn't even sure why she'd come. Just that the rhymes had led her there: torn flyers, whispers on bathroom walls, a cassette in a payphone booth that played one line when pressed. "You'll find me where no one listens until the train passes." She waited in the cold, hands buried in her coat, heart pounding like a snare drum under her ribs. And then as she heard it, not a song, not a freestyle, not even a verse, just one word, from behind her, spoken low. "Ready?" She turned, and there he was. Not a ghost, not a dream, just an old man in a hoodie too big for him, eyes too sharp to be forgotten. He looked thinner, older, but real, as if time had tried to bury him, and he'd crawled out of the dirt rhyming. "Marshall," she breathed. He smiled, just barely. Not anymore. They walked for hours, through alleys with forgotten murals, under bridges humming with stories, past people who didn't look twice or looked too long. He told her how they tried to shut him down, tried to medicate the memory out of him, erase the meter, delete the bars. But the thing about rhyme, he said, is that it loops. It comes back. It remembers, even when you don't. Kyla asked why now. Why her? He didn't answer right away. Just stopped beside a wall covered in verses. Spray-painted, etched, carved in keys and pins and fingernails. A living page. And in the center, they buried the man, but forgot the voice. Now it speaks for everyone they silenced. He tapped the wall. "You're not here because of me," he said. "You're here because you're next." The movement had already started. They called themselves echoes. Poets, rappers, spoken word prophets. Kids in group homes. Ex-cons with notebooks. Elderly with forgotten diaries. Nurses. Buskers. Mechanics. Dropouts. Survivors. All of them writing. Rhyming. Warning. Dreaming. Because the truth was no longer trusted in headlines. Only in meter. Only in verse. Only in what he left behind. And Kyla, she became their archivist. The last known appearance of Marshall Mathers was caught on a cracked security cam outside an abandoned radio tower in Michigan. No sound. Just a man in a hoodie stepping into the building with a bag over his shoulder. A power surge fried the tower's grid for 6 minutes. When it came back online, there was no one inside. But the world received something else. A final file. No sender. No origin. Just audio. His voice. Older. Slower. Broken in all the right ways. The file was called Outro for the one still listening. This ain't a goodbye. I never said hello. Just a scream in the static. Where truth can still grow. They called me lost. Called me gone. Said the fire was out. But forgot the song. I ain't coming back. I was never there. Just a rhyme in your breath. When you whisper and care. If you write, write loud. If you speak, bleed it clear. I'm not the voice anymore. I'm the ear. Kyla cried when she heard it. Not because it was over, but because it wasn't. His voice was in schools now. In rallies. In jails. In playgrounds. In hospice rooms. In whispered verses between strangers who knew how to rhyme their truth. He was no longer one man. He was a pattern. A loop. A rhythm. A warning. And somewhere, some kid in a city no one cared about was picking up a pencil, rapping into a cracked mirror, repeating lines that felt older than his bones, sounding too much like someone the world had forgotten. And in the silence between bars, a beat whispered back,